Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. My name is Evan Freiberger, and welcome to the weather. We're going to be talking about it today. We got a couple things to talk about. We got a severe weather risk today, small tornado risk, but not impossible. We'll be going over that and what you guys can expect tonight. And then also, we're going to be talking about tomorrow, where we've had a little bit of an upgrade to a 3 out of 5 for severe weather, a couple tornadoes being possible. And according to some people, maybe not, can't really completely rule out a derecho. So we'll be talking about that during this live stream, kind of going over the current conditions, the current watches, and all that stuff, and also chatting with you guys as well. How's everybody doing today? It's been a while since I've seen you. Just a little bit of an update. I just moved back into my old house, which for those of you that don't know, flooded last December due to pipes bursting in the house. Everything got ruined, and pretty much the entire house needed to be remodeled from the inside and a little bit to the out too. So yeah, just moved back in after about a year and a half. Finally, have the house and Wi-Fi and everything set up. Chaz has been using the doggy door and barking at the dogs in the back. But yeah, a little bit of a mic check. This is a new room. Do you guys? It's a little bit more reverby in this room. Are you guys hearing that, or does it sound normal? I can even hear like the echo a little bit behind me. The old house tour. We might do a little bit of a tour eventually, but I would rather try not to dox myself. Sounds normal. Okay. And then also, how's the stream quality looking as well? Because this is a brand new Wi-Fi thing that I've never used before. Quality is good. Can hear it a little bit, but you can still hear me clearly. Yeah, maybe it'll just add a little bit of a new dynamic to the stream. Looks okay, awesome. Yeah, there's a difference, but slightly. Okay, yeah, I'll check it out after the stream. If it doesn't, if it sounds weird, we'll make some adjustments. But if I like it, I'm gonna keep it. But anyways, let's go ahead and get on to the weather. Enough of me yapping. So this is what we got going on right now. We got a severe thunderstorm watch out there. That's the lighter gray color that you see on the map with the little polygons out there. That's gonna be for parts of Iowa, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. You can see we already have some storms popping up over here in Wisconsin. We got some storms near Platteville. Another one just got severe over here with quarter-sized hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds. That's heading towards Fenimore. And then these ones over here heading towards Madison eventually could have some severe potential there as it moves throughout the southern portion of the state. We'll go over that timing in just a little bit. Here in northern Illinois, we're starting to see some storms pop up here as well. You can see not really overly organized right now, not seeing any severe thunderstorms yet. But that should change overnight as this thing kind of forms into an MCS. Definitely going to be watching out for some damaging winds down the line. As this cluster kind of organizes, creates a little bit of a cold pool, and then pushes those stronger winds into the region. Eventually, areas like Aurora, Rockford, Evanston, Chicago, and even parts of Indiana could be in that severe risk. And then we also have these storms back over here in Iowa that are trying to form, and they are down there south of Ackley, pushing down towards Belle Plaine and Cedar Rapids. And these guys will also carry a severe threat with them. So just be weather aware out there. We'll be going over the timing in just a little bit and the risk as well. But I do want to come up here and talk about this as well. We do have another severe thunderstorm watch up here. You can see we actually have tornado warnings in Canada. But I've been noticing as these storms make it into the United States, those tornado warnings really don't get continued. But, you know, that's just kind of how it happens sometimes. A little bit of a different parameter space in between two different countries warning their storms. But there is a little bit of rotation on that storm. Kind of looks like mainly just a gust front right now as that pushes into North Dakota, but you can see parts of Montana and North Dakota are also in a severe thunderstorm watch. Some significant damaging winds, larger hail, and potentially a tornado cannot be ruled out there. But the tornado risk for today is relatively low. So let's kind of talk about the risk out there. So let's come over here to the severe weather outlook. And this is our graphic for today. Oh, wow. I just realized the colors really aren't good at all. Looking at the graphics, it makes the radar look good, but it makes the graphics look all muted. But so we'll just come over to here where it'll be a little bit more pleasing, I guess, to the eye. But yeah, this is the slight risk out here for parts of Montana going into North Dakota, also Minnesota and South Dakota. We got another little slight risk over here for Iowa, southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, kind of central and northern Indiana, southern Michigan, and then also parts of Ohio as well. You can see cities like Peoria, Chicago, Fort Wayne, Columbus, Indianapolis, and Cincinnati are all going to be in the slight risk for tonight. Tornado risk is going to be pretty low, 2%. But you can't really rule out a tornado out of this. I don't think it's going to be impossible, but I think the risk is going to be pretty low. Most of these storms should remain outflow dominant. Looking at the wind risk for today, this area where the strongest winds are going to be possible are going to be over here in North and South Dakota, but still could get some pretty gusty winds of up to 60, maybe at max 70 miles per hour over there in that slight risk area. And then hail is going to be pretty low chance over here. In the slight risk, in parts of the Ohio Valley and Iowa there, and then coming up to the northern plains, could see some significant hail with those storms crossing over the border into parts of North Dakota there. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Let's come over here to the day 2 risk, and you can see we also have a slight risk out there for some parts. And you see in this little orange area, we have a little bit of an enhanced risk out there, and that's mainly going to be wind driven, but there's also going to be a tornado risk associated with that, and that's going to be for parts of Iowa, kind of pretty much the same areas where we're going to be seeing potentially some damaging winds today. Could also see that elevated tornado risk and some more damaging winds tomorrow, which it's been round after round of lines of storms out here for you guys, and I definitely feel for you. Thankfully, nothing too crazy has happened just yet, but tomorrow could be a little bit different. If we come over here to the wind risk, you can see that we do have a 30% hashed risk. That's going to be for 75-mile-per-hour winds and above, and it's for a pretty decently large area. You can see that really anywhere from Iowa going into northern Illinois, northern Indiana, and even parts of Michigan and Ohio are going to be in that threat for those significant damaging winds. So you're definitely going to want to be weather aware tomorrow. I will 100% be live tomorrow as long as there's no major connectivity issues with my Wi-Fi. So we'll have to see. But yeah. Coming over to the hail, tomorrow's hail threat isn't going to be really too big of a deal, but it's going to be something that we're going to have to watch out for. Maybe some small hail could be possible, but that'll probably be the least of your worries tomorrow, given the fact of the significant nature of the damaging wind threat. But yeah, let's come back over to here and talk about the models and the timing for these storms. Let's come over here to the HRRR model first, and then we'll check out the NAM model, see if we can see some differences. Unfortunately, with the NAM, we can't really look at the 10-meter wind gust, which is kind of what we're really going to be focusing on this, but we can kind of get a difference of opinion on at least when the timings of the storms are going to be. So this is going to be starting off for today, where we do have that slight risk for severe weather. We're going to be going a little bit far back so we can see a little bit further into the future. But yeah, you can see it's kind of happening as the models proclaimed. You can see that we do have some storms already firing up there north of Cedar Rapids and also into Wisconsin, and those are going to eventually kind of form into a cluster, and a little bit of damaging winds could be possible as these push into northern Illinois, which is when I think the risk of damaging winds is going to be at its highest tonight. Again, tornadoes are going to be pretty low chance if they do happen today. I think they're going to be more of those embedded tornadoes, those quick little spin-ups. So would have to watch that out for that, but I have the feeling that a lot of these storms are going to stay a little bit more outflow dominant. Then eventually these storms are going to continue to push down to the south as we're going into 2 a.m. and they start to fizzle out. So let's kind of talk about that timing. Right around 9 p.m. they should be entering into northern Illinois. This is when we could start to see a little bit more of a widespread severe weather threat. And then that kind of pushes down into Chicago region by around 11 p.m. You see those storms extend all the way to the south of Davenport as well. And then these storms kind of push down to the south and to the east into Michigan. That severe threat should be on the tail end. There could still be some severe storms left as this happens, but once we get into around 2-3 a.m. this kind of falls apart into mainly just some rain. Could still have some stronger storms over there near Detroit, but the tornado threat at this point would be 0. But Up here for the northern part of the country here, I know we don't got a lot of folks tuning in from here, but some scattered supercells are going to be possible. Maybe a spin up could be possible as well, and that's going to be really going into the overnight hours, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and then that could form into a little bit of an MCS itself, push into the Grand Forks area by around 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. These storms kind of lose their marbles, but then as we go into the next day, this kind of cold pool that forms there is going to eventually try to initiate some more storms. And these are going to be the storms that we're really going to have to pay attention for tomorrow. You can see right around 4 p.m., we start to see more convection, kind of in the same regions that where it started today over there in Iowa. And then we start to see more widespread convection as we go into 5 p.m. I mean, this is over here near Waterloo, near Cedar Rapids, Dubuque, Iowa City. Let's kind of check the atmosphere when this happens. Yeah, not a whole lot of lower level shear here initially. So while those storms are a little bit more discreet, they should have some issues trying to produce tornadoes, but they could still tap into maybe an outflow boundary or two and try to spin up, especially this scenario with these storms a little bit further to the north and also a little bit further to the south where there would be semi-discrete there as well. And then so pushing this through into around 6 p.m. Let's you can see Cedar Rapids, 7 p.m., south of Dubuque, going into Davenport. Once we get into 8 p.m., though, you can really see this thing really starts to take on a comma shape. We now have ourselves a punctuation interrupting storm here, and, that is an MCS there. That's that cold pool of air really starting to surge, and I really do think at around 8 p.m. is when we're really going to see probably the strongest winds and also the strongest tornado threat with this storm. And, as the storm kind of surges, you get those little cold pool surges, you can get those rotations on the northern side, and those can produce some quick spin up tornadoes. And with some of these MCSs, we can get a decent amount of tornadoes out of them, just depending on how it interacts with this environment. If we come over here to the 850 millibar winds, you can see that there is going to be some spin up there in the lower atmosphere, and then above we definitely have some decent amount of winds up there. So a tornado or two, or maybe 5, or maybe 10, or maybe 12, 20 can't be ruled out. It's a wide range. These things don't always produce a lot of tornadoes, but sometimes they can surprise. And if they get really active and start to spin up those QLCS tornadoes, we can end up seeing 12 to 20 kind of tornadoes with these kind of systems. So definitely be weather aware as this comes through. But again, the biggest threat with this storm is going to be those damaging wind gusts. So let's kind of keep pushing this forward. By around 9 to 10 p.m., you can see that those winds start to push into Aurora, Chicago, Juliet, near Galesburg, and Davenport as well. Some of the models are indicating that this kind of area of convection could extend well back into Nebraska, which I do think that's possible given the fact that, this is a pretty significant, frontal, or not significant, but a pretty pronounced frontal boundary. So you could get more convection a little bit further to the west as well, which is why we do have that little marginal risk going and a slight risk going all the way over into areas like Wyoming and Colorado there. But for the most part, the strongest storms, at least, will be in this area. And by 10 p.m., these should be moving into the Chicago region, also into northern Indiana. Parts of Illinois are still getting some potentially stronger storms there. But by this time, the damaging wind threat should be a lot weaker. The tornado threat should be a lot briefer. And, you can see that we still do have some stronger storms, by even 3 a.m. out there near Bloomington, Urbana, Decatur, and Jacksonville, at least according to the HRRR, by 3 a.m. So, could be, a long night for some rain and some thunderstorms. Hey, thank you, Lady J, for the $5. I do appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah. So then going into 5 a.m., these storms are continuing off to the east. It looks like, at least according to the HRRR, that severe weather threat is not going to make it into parts of, southern Ohio, but kind of like that northeastern or northwestern quadrant of Ohio could still see some significant severe winds potentially near Fort Wayne, north of Lima, going into Toledo with this little pocket of thunderstorms. And that would be right around 1 a.m. To about 3 3 a.m. there for northern Ohio, and then that should start to die down as we get to around 4 to 5 a.m., 6 a.m. You can see these storms really start to fall apart. So Cleveland will kind of be on that line of whether or not these storms will sustain themselves all the way to you. But yeah, that's what we're mainly talking about tomorrow. So let's kind of look at the wind gusts and what we can expect with this storm tomorrow, at least according to the HRRR, and then we'll go over and check the NAM 3K model as well, just to kind of get a comparison and contrast. Now, are you barking at the echo of my voice? I think my dog's barking at the echo of my voice. Dark clouds over Madison. Yeah, so there are storms near Madison right now. Once we get through the forecast, and while I'm answering questions, or before I answer questions, we'll do another severe weather update on the current conditions, because there is some severe weather going on today. But yeah, so here are the winds for today going into tonight. You can see, it's going to be sporadic as the storm forms, and every time you see these brighter yellows, kind of like these darker yellows in there, that's indicating some severe winds there. Potentially, sometimes those can be significant, but for the most part, those are like 60 to 70 mile per hour winds, and it's going to be pretty sporadic out there. So it's not going to be a super organized, line of storms. Every now and then, a pocket of the storm, you'll see those winds surge, and then you could get some stronger winds associated with that. And so we're not really seeing too much of an organization in a strength of those lines, that line of storms. But as that pushes off to the east, and then we get into the next day, you can see starting off with as soon as the storms form at around 4 or 5 p.m. here in eastern Iowa, you can see that we start to see a lot of those yellows and darker yellows there. That is indicating some stronger and potentially significant winds right out the back. 6 p.m., those winds start to move into Dubuque, Cedar Rapids. You see this organizes more into a stronger line of storms here. And you can see that almost the entire line has those yellows and darker yellows indicating, a widespread area where we could see some decent wind damage out of these storms. Again, we can't rule out 75, 80 mile per hour winds, which is very similar, just for reference, it's going to be briefer, but very similar to the winds that we experienced down here on the coast there south of Houston in Matagorda Bay. So it's going to be a lot briefer, but if you, just in case you guys were watching any of those storm chasers that were out there, that's the strength of the winds that could be coming into your area. Again, it's going to be briefer, but still could cause some damages, power outages as this comes through, and you're definitely going to want to be weather aware tomorrow. But it does look like by the time we get to around 10 p.m., we start to see a lot of those yellows start to dissipate. But right before Chicago, still could have the potential there of some 70 to 80 mile per hour winds there as well. And then following this line into Indiana, still seeing some yellows in there, so definitely still a severe potential as that pushes into areas like South Bend, Logansport. But as you can see, those winds really start to die down as we get into Ohio. But you see that northern portion there of the storm, some little yellow spots picking back up. So we still could have some significant wind possibility over there south of Toledo, but it's going to be very isolated event up there with the majority of Ohio, mainly an outflow dominated area there with some severe winds possible, but it's going to be very sparse out there as well. But yeah, it's going to be quite the day tomorrow. Again, these events don't always materialize, but let's kind of look at the kinematics for tomorrow, not just the shear, but kind of what we're going to be dealing with. So one of the things that we got to watch out for with these kind of storms is the cold pool. Where's that cold pool of air? So as you can see across the country, we've got anything but, what's going on here? It really is taking this a lot longer to load than it used to. I'm not sure if that's just because it's temperature data. I think the temperatures take longer to load. Oh yeah, it's loading. I think it's loading like the actual temperatures. So it can have like a little detailed display, I guess. Just give it a moment. It's getting there. Yeah, we never load the temperatures up, so I'm completely forgotten how long this usually takes to load temperatures. There we go. Okay, so here are the temperatures I think currently, not currently, but oh gosh. All right, yeah. So here's the temperature. So you see we get that little area of cold air kind of formed near the warm air there. That's what's going to cause that little push there for some stronger winds with the storms there. And then you can see we get a lot more warmth kind of work its way into the region, and then we get those storms fire and the air that cold air kind of forms, and then get that cold pool surge, and you can see it quite clearly here. Kind of the differences of the temperatures there, and also if we switch over to the amount of moisture that's going to be available, I mean it's going to feel miserable out in front of the storm in terms of that heat and humidity. We're talking almost 80-degree dew points in some of these areas here north of Bloomington. So plenty of instability. You get those storms fire. If you can get that cold pool to form, then we're going to see potentially a pretty significant wind event happen after that. But it really just depends on how all that comes together. Sometimes you just don't get enough cold air form with the storms. Maybe there's a little bit of a unknown cap in the area, and you still get an MCS, but it's not as strong as you were expecting. But bottom line is that once these storms gets going, anybody down the line, anybody down the line in like Des Moines, Peoria, Chicago, Fort Wayne, really need to be on high alert tomorrow as this comes through. As I wouldn't be surprised if it goes as forecasted here that we get a designation eventually as a derecho, but then that's if it goes as forecasted. Again, if we get a little bit of a little wrench in the forecast and it's a lot weaker than expected, then obviously it won't get that designation, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. In terms of like any upgrades from here, I think the only upgrade that'll come will probably come for the winds. I don't really think the tornado, we might get a 10% for tornadoes, but I'm thinking, that's on the low end of things. I think for the most part, this is going to stay a conditional tornado risk, and then the wind risk could get an upgrade depending on, if all the models kind of come together on the same solution, and we start to see the ingredients line up, because once you get into the day of a potential storm or severe weather outbreak, you get that data in the real-time data, and it makes it a lot easier to try to determine what the storm is going to do. So that if we're going to get any upgrades out of this, which I think even a moderate is on the lower end of chances, it's going to come tomorrow morning. But yeah, I think overall, what you guys should be preparing for is that damaging wind threat, and it's got a decent chance of happening. And I would just there's not much of a difference between a moderate and enhanced wind threat. Other than the confidence there. So, just be prepared for that. But here's the NAM solution. As you can see, it forms the storms tonight, kind of pushes it down to the south and east. Maybe some stronger storms than what the HRRR was predicting over here in parts of Michigan, pushing off towards like north of Kalamazoo and Lansing by the time we get to around 2 to 3 a.m. tonight. Then that pushes off into Canada over there. And then our attention kind of switches back to over here. And as you can see, kind of the same scenario, except the storms fire a little bit further north there in Minnesota, then starts to push down. That line of damaging winds would probably be a little bit more to the south here. It started a little bit earlier too, pushing into maybe Cedar Rapids and Iowa City with those significant winds, and then maybe going a little bit further to the south. But, I mean, you can still see, by around 12 a.m., which is 2 hours behind the HRRR. So, sometime in between 10 p.m. and 12 a.m. is when we're going to be expecting the most significant winds for Chicago going into Juliet. But I mean, the NAM 3K really doesn't have too much of a punch here. It doesn't pack too much of a punch on the southern portion of this line, really anywhere south of Juliet at this point. So as you can see, there is still a little bit of disagreement in terms of the strength of this line, but there is kind of agreement at the very least on this northern portion of the storm, pushing into northern Illinois, and then also pushing into parts of Ohio, northern Ohio as well, and lasting pretty much till Cleveland and then dying off. So there is some agreement in when these storms should die off and become non-severe, which is around 4 a.m. And then there is some degree agreement that damaging wind threat could last into Toledo and most likely die off before it gets to Cleveland or Mansfield or Columbus. So, and there is also some agreement as well in where some of these stronger winds will go, like areas like Chicago Chicago, north of Davenport there as well, and then further off to the east into southern Michigan. Could also get some pretty damaging winds over there near Kalamazoo as well. So there is a little bit of agreement there between the models, at least on the northern portion. And let's go back over here really quickly, just so you guys can get like right up to it in terms of the comparison, because we did kind of get distracted in between the comparison. So let's do them one after the other. So now we're looking back at the HRRR. And we'll go just to this day. You can see it forms a little bit further to the south, and then those significant winds for Chicago and Juliet there, and then we get a little bit more widespread convection on the southern side, according to the HRRR. Not as much on the northern side, but there still could be some damaging winds there, at least according to the NAM. So we'll have to see what ends up happening. But there is some minor disagreement there, and yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for the entirety of the forecast for today and tomorrow. In terms of tropical activity, we don't have anything going on out there. And then after, kind of going into the future, maybe a little bit more, we're not going to really be expecting too much, with the kind of weather pattern that we are in. We've got to look out for some stronger winds into the upper atmosphere in the 500 millibar area, pretty much that it provides the venting for the storms. It can provide, some lift for the storms. We're not really talking about too much lower level shear unless we get like an MCS kind of form out of these storms. And so we're watching kind of the upper levels to see, if we can get some small disturbances near the surface, maybe a couple of isolated storms there. And you can see as this kind of pushes through the area, this this upper level trough here really doesn't, look like it's going to do much after that. I mean, we still have some stronger winds there going into like the 16th and 17th, but we go over to the precipitation, the surface base Cape. There's really not as much than what we're going to have with this setup that we're having right now. I mean, we're talking about anywhere from 3, 4, maybe even some instances of 5, 6,000 joules per kilogram going into tomorrow. But in terms of after that, a lot of that instability is going to try to dry up. And then also, those upper level winds are going to start to calm down a little bit more. So you mix those two things up together. I'm really thinking after Monday, we should get a little bit more of a quieter portion. Because yeah, you can see all that instability is going to be clustered down here in the southeast going into the 17th. So even though, I'm not expecting, too much in terms of tornadic activity or significant severe weather, we could still see some pop-up thunderstorms happening in the further south as you just get some outflow boundaries come through. But in terms of like the rest of the country, I'm not really seeing any indications, at least over the next 5 days, of that instability returning back up to the north until we get into about the 19th. And, you really need a little bit of an upper level low to kick things off there, maybe a little bit of a surface low there with that instability. But that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Let's go do another update here really quick. And look at the severe weather across the board on what's currently happening. And as you can see, we do have a couple of severe storms now popping up here in northern Illinois. We got one here with a tornado possible tag, 1 inch hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. Let's go check out those velocities on this and see what they're seeing. Yeah, a little bit of broad circulation is happening here near Andover. That's going to be heading towards Thompson here in a little bit. And then also up here to the north, south, and east of Galena, got a severe thunderstorm warning on that, the tornado possible tag on it. Some broad circulation right now, weak circulation there in between Guilford and Hanover and Stockton, but that's about all I'm seeing there. For Madison, Wisconsin, though, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning now for you guys. It's going to be for Waunakee, Middleton, Fitchburg, and Madison. All you guys need to be indoors and away from windows. Quarter-sized hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds could be possible there as well. North and west of Plateville, we also have another severe thunderstorm warning, mainly for damaging winds of up to 60 miles per hour, and that's pushing to the south of Fenimore there in Wisconsin. Let me check back over here just to make sure we're not getting any surprises in terms of rotations. Yeah, not concerned about those. You can see these storms are quite outflow dominated right now, and looks like they are struggling to do much there. But these ones up here, especially as they are more discrete, could have a small tornado potential. But again, I really do think that these storms should go outflow dominated pretty quickly. What about today? We already talked about today and tomorrow in the forecast. But just a quick refresher for the new folks tuning in. Today, we do have a slight risk for severe weather for areas like Chicago, Peoria, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus, and Fort Wayne. In terms of the tornado risk, we have a 2% for tornadoes there near Chicago, Fort Wayne, Columbus, Indianapolis, and Cincinnati. I think it's a very low chance for tornadoes, but you can't rule out a couple spin-up tornadoes, especially embedded in that MCS type line. It's just going to be kind of an unorganized event. I think we have a higher chance of seeing a tornado up here in North Dakota, to be honest. The winds tonight should be, shouldn't stay under significant level. We could still see some 60 to 70 miles per hour down here, and this slight risk up further, a little bit further to the north and west, though. Could see some significant winds over there near Bismarck and Aberdeen there in North and South Dakota. Hail risk is mainly going to be associated up there in the northern plains. Coming over to day two, as you can see, we do have an enhanced risk. That's a 3 out of 5 for severe weather. That's in this orange area, and that's going to be for Des Moines. It's kind of the same areas that are going to be in the slight risk today are going to be in that enhanced risk tomorrow. We're talking about a little bit more of an elevated tornado potential, 5% tornado risk there for northern Illinois going into Iowa, also in parts of Indiana, 2% around that, encompassing parts of Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, also southern southern Wisconsin and Iowa there. And then, the main threat for tomorrow, though, again, is going to be those significant damaging winds. We have a 30% hatched risk. This is why the enhanced is there. If you have a 5% tornado risk, that's not enough for an enhanced risk. But this is a significant wind threat tomorrow. And that's the highest chance of those significant winds are going to be for Des Moines, Peoria, Chicago, and Fort Wayne. Around that, we have a yellow area still within this black outline. That's that hashed region of being able to see 75 mile per hour winds and above, and that's going to be for parts of Iowa. There, near Springfield, Indianapolis, just to the east of Fort Wayne, and Milwaukee as well. And then, everywhere else outside of the black outline region, in the yellow is going to be a 15% chance for 60 mile per hour winds or above, and in the brown it's going to be a 5% chance for those 15 mile per hour winds and above. Hail, not going to be too big of an issue. Might get a couple instances of quarter-sized hail. But yeah, that's what we're talking about for both of the days. If you live in any of those regions, just be super weather aware tomorrow. Could have some instances of some pretty significant and damaging winds. I'm expecting, if everything goes as forecasted. Again, as you guys know, every now and then you're going to get some wrenches thrown into the forecast and things don't really verify as thought, or sometimes they go a little bit worse than what was thought. And I think the only area where things could get a little bit worse than what was thought would be like maybe a little bit more tornadoes than we were expecting. Like tomorrow, I think a couple tornadoes could be possible, but every now and then with these MCSs, you do end up getting, like a tornado spam moment where you start to get a lot of these little spin ups within that MCS line. Hydrate. Well, let me finish my forecast first before you guys start spamming it. Clock is glitching. When does it not? Is it an Evan Freiberger stream without the clock glitching? You're in the enhanced region? Yeah. It's okay. You'll be all right. Just make sure you're weather aware tomorrow. We'll be live again tomorrow to cover that. If we get any significant upgrades tomorrow morning, I'll go live before the event to give you guys an update on that as well. Do you have any questions for tomorrow? Yeah, it's interesting. There's been a lot of little rounds of storms out here for you guys. Hopefully everybody's been all right. Yes, I'm streaming from my house today. Yes. I know you guys can't tell, but things are different. I might be able to pull back the veil one of these days. So I will let you guys know. You see that? That's a blank wall back there. That's a blank wall. You know what that means? We can decorate it. That's going to be coming to members only streams eventually. Also, hopefully trying to finish the music. I don't know when we're ever going to get to that. It's a blank canvas for shenanigans to go on that wall, so But Chazzy pictures? I don't think so. What about storms near Detroit? So, in terms of Detroit, let's go back over to the latest HRRR run here. Your risk is going to be, this is really taking a lot longer to load. I will say, I don't understand. It should be 2 GB internet. I don't know why it would take longer to load. But I have been noticing some little hiccups in the internet. For Detroit, let's get you centered here over the next couple of days. Yeah, it looks like by the time the storms get to you, what the heck? Where'd it go? Sorry. The model just glitched out. So yeah, it looks like your main risk for today or tomorrow, it's gonna be around like 4 a.m. I guess that would be the day after tomorrow morning. I'm not really expecting anything overly significant for you there in Detroit. Some damaging winds could be possible. But the worst should be to your south. But if we get any shifts of the track of this MCS, you could potentially see some stronger winds there. Will Michigan coastline get a bow echo type storm tonight? It is possible. It is possible as we get into like around 12 a.m. From around 11 to 12 a.m. There could be a little bit of a bow echo, especially there in southern Michigan, near South Bend, Shoreham, and Benton Harbor. Not really thinking that's going to be too overly strong, but it could pack some decent winds in there, potentially 60-mile-per-hour winds could be severe as that pushes in. So you might get woken up, but it's nothing that I would lose sleep over unless you live near like big trees. I would definitely pay attention to the storm. How's Des Moines for tomorrow? It's going to be hit or miss for Des Moines. Just depends on where the storm forms. It could form a little bit to your north. You're not going to really see too much there then, but maybe going into the nighttime hours could get some, less severe, but still potentially some severe storms there near Des Moines. And then after that, you guys are going to be good to go. So, if these initial storms that fired around 4 or 5 p.m. tomorrow fire a little bit further to the south, then you might get some more significant wind, maybe some, a small tornado threat there as well. So I would be weather aware just for all the different scenarios that this storm could do. Can we see the percentage outline again? I can pull it up here, I guess. It just looks weird for some reason. I don't know why the color looks all weird. I guess it doesn't really matter, right? All right. So here is the outline. So here is the tornado percentages for tomorrow. So as you can see, we do have a 2% out there near Fort Wayne, Lima, Muncie, Logansport, South Bend, Fishers there in Ohio and Indiana. Also Kalamazoo, Urbana there in Illinois, going into Des Moines, Ames, Waterloo, Dubuque, also Madison, Milwaukee, and Kenosha are in that 2%. In the 5%, it's going to be areas like Southern Chicago, Aurora, Juliet, DeKalb, Dixon, Ottawa, Bloomington, Peoria, Pekin, Canton, Galesburg, Burlington, Davenport, Cedar Rapids there. And then that's, the biggest risk for tomorrow is, again, they're going to be those damaging winds. And that's going to be over there near like Chicago, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, Urbana, Bloomington, Chicago, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, Creston, Centerville, Ottumwa, Carroll, Fort Dodge there as well, that are all going to have, also Madison as well. I don't know if I said that, that are all going to have that chance for those 75-mile-per-hour winds and above. So it's definitely going to be something that you're going to want to watch out for as we get closer to tomorrow, as things could definitely get a little bit hectic out there. But I guarantee you we will. Oops, I did not mean to switch that to dark presentation. Let me get. Whenever I pull up that severe weather risk thing and I move it to the side, it like makes a black bar appear, and it's very annoying. Yorkville, Illinois for today and tomorrow. Yeah, we can check that out. Let me check it out for you. Where is Yorkville? York. Illinois. There it is. Yeah, so over there near DeKalb, Ottawa, it looks like tonight is gonna be your threat's gonna be around 10 to 11 p.m. As those storms form and then push into your region there, and then as we go into tomorrow, so we're about to go to a previous model run here. If we go into tomorrow, it looks like it's gonna be sometime. Yeah, sometime between like 7 and 10 p.m. where you could get this damaging line of winds. That's when your threat for those damaging winds are going to be maximized there. So I would definitely be weather aware as that comes through. It's going to storm in southern Ontario, like over here near London. I mean, you might get some storms potentially, but I'm not really overly familiar with the kinematics in place there. So I would ask instant weather on YouTube for that forecast. By the way, guys, if you haven't liked the stream yet, please like the stream. It does help us get this out to more people. Hit that subscribe button for me as well if you guys are, if this information is helpful for you. Let's see. Round Lake, Illinois. Round Lake, Illinois. Let's check it out. Yeah, Round Lake Beach, they're kind of north of Chicago. Looks like tonight you could get some thunderstorms at around 8 p.m. Should be over by around 10 p.m. And then going into the next day, where that significant wind risk will be possible, you'll either be on the very far north of it, or maybe, if it goes a little bit more south than what was anticipated, you might not see too much out of this storm. So it's not a guarantee there of significant winds, but I would definitely be weather aware sometime in between like 8 and 11 p.m. tomorrow, as there is certainly a chance there for some significant winds and maybe a spin up tornado. Thank you, Ancient, for subscribing. I do appreciate it. Just south of Indianapolis. So tomorrow for south of Indianapolis,
a new tornado warning has been issued.
Oh, geez. Okay. We have a tornado warning. So for Pleasant Valley. It seems like we're getting some sort of contaminated signal here. I mean, there does appear to be an area of rotation in this storm. That one's in the inflow. I don't think that's the one we're watching out for. So I think it'd be this one right here. It's a little bit on the broad side, but there is some rotation there. If you live in Pleasant Valley, just go to your safe spots. If nothing happens, just consider it as practice there. And again, that safe spot is the lowest, most interior room of your house. As many walls in between you and the outside as humanly possible. This is in Illinois. More of a semi-discrete storm here. The signal is so messy here. Let me check it on. Let me see if I can find a different radar view of this. Yeah, I mean, our closest radar here has quite the messy view. And yeah, the latest scan, I mean, I'm just not seeing it. There's a little area here of some circulation, but it's just a very blocky presentation. I wonder if we have any reports on this storm. Maybe there's a report of a wall cloud or like a funnel, but that rotation's not really there anymore. And this all back here, this is just all inflow contamination there. As you can see, that was in the inflow. So yeah, this back here is where that circulation was. It's a little bit broad, but the latest scan, as you can see, that area, the reds are pretty much gone. The greens are a lot more faded. So that's probably, that rotation is probably pretty much on its way out there. I do not think a tornado dropped. It might have gotten close, but at the same time, I really do think we were dealing with some contamination issues there. Thanks for subscribing, Ethan. Do appreciate it. You're on another live, and they were talking about it was contamination or circulation. It's definitely contaminated. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the next scan says. I just don't think that the that area of rotation was too legitimate, especially this one. This one right here was not legitimate circulation. That was, in fact, side lobe contamination. But this one back here was pretty legitimate. I'm not sure which one they warned though. Let me check out the warning text. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing tornado was located over Mas Bach, or 13 miles northwest of Mount Carroll. 13 miles northwest of Mount Carroll. So yeah, that would have been this circulation. So yeah, I think out of all of them, that one looked like the area of rotation that was in kind of the best, or had the best view of it. But I mean, it was never strong and it was never tight rotation. It was pretty broad rotation there, but and now it's pretty much gone. So we'll keep an eye on it to see if that circulation redevelops. But as you can see, just the presentation of this storm right now, very blocky presentations here. I think we got another area of side lobe contamination here on the southern side. Yeah, that's in clear air. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Anybody got more questions about tonight or tomorrow's severe weather? Sneaky little side lobes. Yeah, they do be happening quite a bit. I don't think that they warned that side lobe though, thankfully. So I think they saw that and recognized it. There was a little broader area of circulation. From my threshold, didn't really reach it, but for their threshold, it reached it. So they put that warning on it. I typically, when I'm concerned about a storm producing a tornado, it's usually when the rotations are a little bit stronger and tighter than what they warned here. So I definitely don't think we're at a tornado imminent right now with this storm, but there is some circulation. And if you live over there in Pleasant Valley, I'd be in your safe spots there just in case this thing tries to reorganize, because it could certainly maybe try to do that. I just don't think the tornadic environment is very conducive of tornadoes today. There's really not much of a tornadic environment, to be honest. These storms should become outflow dominated, pretty clustered here shortly, and then we really should see that tornado threat drop from 2% to about 0%. General question: why do these storms always seem to happen late afternoon / evening? They usually happen later in the day, mainly because the atmosphere needs a little while to build up that instability. I mean, you can still get tornado outbreaks at night with larger systems, but especially during these like summer kind of dominated storms that aren't really associated with larger systems, you need to have that instability kind of build up, and then that cold pool to kind of build up too, because you mainly going into like July and August, you have a lot of instability. You get this cold pool form, which typically takes a couple of hours. So you need enough instability for the storms to fire in the first place, to drop enough rain to cool off the atmosphere, create that cold pool. And that can take, quite a few hours. So typically, during the summer, you do see, like afternoon, more afternoon type storms. We're looking at tornado activity in southeast Wisconsin. Let me check that out for you. Yeah, southern Wisconsin's in a low tornado chance today. I'm not really expecting anything too crazy out of southern. No, hold on. Yeah, 2% today and tomorrow. I'd be more worried about significant winds in southern Wisconsin. So if you live anywhere near like Plateville or Janesville, I definitely would be weather aware. All right, let's check on the latest here to see if any circulations are starting to form again. Let me check this on unsmoothed radar here so I can get a little bit better of a view. Yeah, I'm still believing that this is in, well, it's kind of associated with some precipitation, which might be why that little area of side lobe is weakening and getting more broad because we're actually getting a better view of it from the radar. That could also be potentially a little area of some broad circulation starting to form out of this storm there. It's kind of hard to tell. Again, still a very messy view. And this is not even the original circulation that they warned. That one has since dissipated completely. I still think we're dealing with some side lobe here, but I mean, we do have some precipitation starting to wrap around in these regions. So this could be a legitimate new area of circulation. I do want to wait one more scan, though. But regardless, Pleasant Valley here in Illinois should still be in their safe spots. You just subscribed again, Jared? Well, welcome back again. Thank you for subscribing for the second time. Are we expecting any Fry nadas or Chaz nadas? There's definitely a possibility. I think they're going to be mainly those QLCS type tornadoes. So those quicker spin ups, maybe initially, like in Iowa, might see some attempts at a more isolated storm, discrete storm, produce a little bit more of a typical kind of semi-discrete, discrete supercell and tornado threat there. Just what does side lobe mean? Best way that I could put it. So essentially, storms are tilted. And side lobe is essentially, the radar is looking at part of the storm that is not the mesocyclone, and it's returning kind of false signals out of the storm. And so if you see like rotation in this region of the storm, and it's like very strong rotation, that is side lobe contamination, because tornadoes don't form in the inflow of the storm. They form in the mesocyclone. So first, you have to identify where the mesocyclone is and then watch for rotation there. Now, when storms get a little bit more clustered, it becomes a little bit harder to tell where that contamination is coming from. Or how legitimate the signal is. Like this right here, these signals just don't make any sense south of Pleasant Valley. So we definitely got some sort of clear air contamination happening down there. I don't think that's a legitimate signal at all, and I can just tell that just by looking at it. You're definitely getting some random spikes here in the velocity data, indicating that we are dealing with some sort of contamination there. But yeah, it's usually in the inflow of the storm where you get clear air contamination. Sometimes you can get, that side lobe contamination too. Sometimes hail can cause contamination in a storm as well. And so you really got to watch out for those signals, because if you don't, you can get a scenario of what happened in New York, where it seemed like we were having some historic outbreak in New York State. It was a couple days ago. I mean, we did have a couple tornadoes, don't get me wrong, 7 tornadoes, but we had 42 tornado warnings. And almost all the storms that we called out were side lobe contamination. None of them produced tornadoes. And we were saying it the whole time. We were like, yep, they just warned side lobe contamination again. Nope, there they go again. Nope, there they go again. And, side lobe contamination is something that everybody that does weather broadcasting needs to be well aware of, or just contamination in general, because there's different forms of it. And if you're like a trusted source, you definitely need to be keeping an eye on whether or not your radar signal is contaminated. Little update here from Madison. Storm is moving in still with quarter-sized hail possible. It's going to be mainly up here in this red region of the storm, north of Madison. It's going to be pushing down towards Sun Prairie and Cottage Grove here in a little bit. Thank you, Barbs and Jay, for subscribing. I do appreciate it. Let me bring this back smoother here for a wee bit. I don't think we have any cams in this area, I'm going to be honest. We might have some in near Madison, maybe. Not sure if it's going to be worth looking at it. I don't even really know. I guess they are pretty They do have a decent amount of lightning with them, so it might be worth if there's actual live cams in Madison. Yeah, they are. There are live cams. So let's just go take a peek at one of these storms for just a wee bit. Just a tiny bit. I just want to see. I just want to see a storm. I think it's going to be worth it. This one? Or was it this one? Or was it this one? I think it was this one. Yeah, there's a storm back in there. Raining a little bit. See if we can see any thunder. Thank you, Lakers fan. I do appreciate it. Yeah, this is what it looks like in Madison. Lots of rain. Camera might have shaked there a little bit. Trees really aren't moving too much back in there. Could be some gustier winds that we're just not seeing, though. Those are the current conditions in Madison. Watch out for that hail. All right, let's come back and check this out. The storm over here south of Stockton near Pleasant Valley, where it's not so pleasant right now. This might be something in there. It is also kind of looking like an inflow region of the storm. Let me just let me see here. I'm at the lower the. Yeah, it's definitely an inflow region of the storm. That could be somewhat legitimate. No debris ball on it. It's hard to tell. That one is a head scratcher. Could be some legitimate rotation, or it could just be the inflow. But that would be located here south of Pleasant Valley, about to push into Paulus Grove. That was that area though where we were seeing kind of a lot of contamination there. So that most likely is still some form of contamination. So but just in case it's not, if you live in between Pleasant Valley and Paulus Grove, I'd still be in your safe spots. You can really tell the difference, though, between all these storms that are in the same environment. There's really nothing about this storm that's special. There's no, enhanced shear environment over it. So I really don't see a reason why it would look much different than these guys in reality without this contamination. And yeah, that latest scan has come in, and that little area of contamination is gone. As you can see, there's probably this is what it was really looking like, just really not a whole lot of circulation in there at all. But it's hard to tell sometimes. It's hard to tell. And sometimes you just got to trust your gut. And that's why the storm got warned. So in between Pleasant Valley and Poles Grove, I would still be in your safe spots as that approaches. But I do believe they're gonna drop this tornado warning here shortly. Video keeps buffering, it's on your end, and it still keeps doing it. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. It happened that's been happening with my new internet. And I think it's like some sort of like internet provider thing. I'm not sure. I haven't figured it out yet, but if I do figure it out, I'll definitely let you know what my solution is. Yeah, they said it was on their side. So, Cedar Rapids for tonight and tomorrow. Where is Cedar Rapids? That's in Iowa, right? Yeah. So that is where there's Des Moines to the east of Des Moines. So yeah, it looks like you're going to be in that enhanced risk tonight. Your main risk is going to be from these storms. If they do get severe, if they don't become severe, you're not going to see anything more. But for tomorrow, you are going to be potentially have a little bit of a tornado risk, but your main risk is going to be those damaging wind gusts of 75 miles per hour and above. So I would definitely be watching out for that risk as the storms approach. I will be live to cover the storms tomorrow, so you can count on that. Central, like over there into like the Des Moines area, north of Des Moines, could see those significant damaging winds. Also western Iowa as well. It's just a little bit more of a conditional risk because it really does depend on where the storms end up firing. The HRRR has them up here coming down into this direction. The NAM has them firing up here in like parts of Minnesota and northern Iowa as well. So a couple different scenarios, but depending on which scenario does happen, you could maybe still see some damaging winds and maybe even some significant damaging winds there in like the central portion there near Ames and Des Moines. But it's not a guarantee by any means. Thank you, James Dittmer, for becoming an EF1 member. I do appreciate it. Yeah, latest scan with this storm, there is no concerning rotation in it. I can say that for a fact now, just by where the storm is located and the velocity data there. So they're definitely going to let that tornado warning expire. Just a little heads up here in Madison, Sun Prairie, and then down, or at least down the immediate line for like Cottage Grove and McFarland, they did allow that severe thunderstorm warning to expire for your area. So definitely still wouldn't go outside by any means. But I would, definitely I would definitely, wouldn't be as worried for like, that hail or the damaging winds. Lower the worry status down just a tad. Watching from Wales. Well, hello. Thank you, Car and Alex, for subscribing. I do appreciate it. You feel like you're spamming? Yeah, I forgot to answer. Well, we got interrupted, rudely interrupted, when we were trying to answer your question about your timing there, Christine. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. So for south of Indianapolis, you could get some rain and showers tonight. If this line's a little bit stronger, you might even hear some thunder. Severe weather is pretty rare going into the morning for you. But going on later into the day here, tomorrow, I mean, it's going to be the day after tomorrow morning when you could potentially see this little outflow boundary move through your region. Could still have some severe weather associated with that at around 1 to 2 a.m. There, but it should be on the weaker side of stuff. I wouldn't rule out maybe a small chance for significant wind gusts there associated with those storms, but it's going to be pretty sporadic. So no guarantees. I would be weather aware though around 1 to 2 a.m. or at the very least have a way to get alerts. That tornado threat though is going to be pretty weak in your area. Yeah, no problem, Christine. Sorry, we got a little bit distracted. You live in rural areas in Wisconsin. They haven't gotten to us for that yet. No, it's yeah. Today was supposed to be a forecast, not a live coverage, but we got a tornado warning, so we're covering it while it's there at least. But I really don't think we're going to get too many tornado warnings tonight. If we do, they're mainly going to be associated with small spin ups along the leading edge of a gust front potentially, but we'll have to see. I'm going to watch the new Twisters movie. Absolutely, that is 100% happening. I don't know if I'm going to see it when it comes out. Just depends on what the weather's doing. I really don't think you guys want me to be like, hey, yeah, I know there's going to be some tornadoes today, but I'm going to be too busy watching a movie of tornadoes. How's Lake County, Illinois looking tonight and tomorrow? I don't know where Lake County is. Can you like name a bigger city that's nearby there in like the region of that? Do I still take Venmo? Uh-oh. Yes, I do still take Venmo. I have my notifications off. Hey, thank you, Joel, for the 25. I do appreciate that. And they put taco emojis. All right. Thank you so much. It is a big help out to the channel. Lake County is the county above Chicago. Oh, okay. Yeah, Lake County is definitely going to have those chances. And in fact, you guys are going to be in the significant risk for damaging winds tomorrow. So definitely be weather aware. Also, I think Lake County is just outside of the worst portion of the tornado risk. So I would say your biggest chances for anything is going to be those damaging winds, significant damaging winds tomorrow. And again, that's going to be like sometime in between 8 p.m. and 12 a.m. tomorrow. Yeah, still 0 areas of rotation that are concerning on that storm. That is now currently still tornado warned. They're going to let it expire here shortly, though. You're going to see the new Twisters movie this coming Saturday. Yeah, I'm excited. Apparently, it's getting really good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's got like an 82%. A lot of 4 out of 5s, 5 out of 5s from different magazines and stuff. So apparently, it's a really good movie. So I am definitely looking forward to it. We've had a couple tornado movies in between. Twisters, or the Twister, the first one, and the current one that we're about to get. And a lot of them weren't really rated that well. So it's pretty interesting that this one is getting such high praise. Because I mean, all I've seen is the trailers, and it looks pretty cool just by the trailers. Sharknado, yeah, I don't think that one was rated too well. I think Allie and Angel Forte for subscribing. Yeah, I would definitely suggest seeing it if you guys are a fan of the weather. It apparently has a pretty good movie plot, according to some of the critics. And it's hard to please those critics, especially on Rotten Tomatoes. They are nasty. Like, I've seen so many good movies in the past that I think, should be rated well, and then it's got like a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. So the fact that they're saying 80% definitely has me a little bit intrigued. Is this storm cluster correlated with? No, this is not. So we're here in northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin with a lot of these storms. As you can see, we have some areas with 60-mile-per-hour winds possible in parts of this line. That's eventually going to be heading down towards Balut, Rockford, and Dixon, and DeKalb, and Aurora, then Evanston and Chicago. So this is associated with the slight risk for today. The enhanced risk for tomorrow is actually getting. This should, I think, at least according to the models, this is where that cold air is going to kind of originate here, and eventually it's going to track down to the south and east and spark some storms here in central Iowa, and then that'll push into the region tomorrow, potentially bringing some significant winds with them. So I would definitely be weather aware as the storm comes through. Being a film critic would be a fun job. Yeah. Seems like, I don't know. A lot of them are mean. Not allowed to use caps. Nope. Because it's annoying. Using all caps is annoying. When does this expire? In 22 minutes? Yeah. I mean, that area of rotation is not even in there anymore. So, anyways, that's probably going to be it for me tonight. But I do appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me just change my title back to where it's supposed to be. A couple tornadoes and 75 MPH winds possible tomorrow. Okay. So that's what it's supposed to be. But yeah, that's going to be it for me, guys. I do appreciate it. Stay weather aware down the line. Again, I don't think tornadoes are going to be a significant issue tonight. I think all these storms are going to remain outflow dominant. This one didn't even produce one. So, and that was when it was a little bit more discreet. We might get a couple of spin ups associated with the line attempt to try to rotate. But I'd be surprised if we actually got a tornado report tonight, I'll be honest. But I would still stay weather aware, mainly for that severe weather potential. And again, that should start to die off by the time it gets into Indiana. So, areas next in line are going to be like Janesville, Beloit, Rockford, Dixon, DeKalb, Aurora, Evanston, Chicago, Joliet, Ottawa, and Portage. If you guys are looking for a little bit more of a detailed update on those storms, we did a little bit of a forecast at the beginning of the stream. So if that's what you're looking for, definitely zoom back into the beginning of the stream and check it out, as we did go over your areas and what to expect tomorrow. And then we also went over the timing as well. So if you have some of those questions, just go back into the beginning of the live stream, and that's where it will be. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll be live tomorrow to cover all of this and let you guys know of what's happening in real time. I think we're going to have a couple of storm chasers out there, live webcams, all that sort of jazz that we typically have on this channel, maybe a little bit of country as well. But yeah, you guys have a wonderful rest of your night, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Huge shout out to everyone that became members and donated, liked the stream. I do appreciate it. If you guys haven't liked it, make sure you're hitting that like button. Also, this is your last time until tomorrow to subscribe, and big shout out to Help Blondie and Erev for helping mod the chat as usual. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.